Hi, everybody. It's Anjanette, and I have another guest with me here today. I'm doing a lot of interviews for the Phoenix TV because I'm trying to really bring that picture of the whole human being together. So, Marea was someone that I came in contact with, and it really does align with who I am as a person and what I'm really trying to show people through this show that I plan to do about how physiological needs and desires correlate with the other parts of us, our mental component, our emotional, our physical. They're all wrapped into one being. And a lot of times people separate them and they don't understand that unless we're really treating all of those parts, the person is missing something. If we're not doing that self-care and taking care of our emotional self, then we're missing something in our life and we don't feel complete in all areas of our life. So I want people to understand that, taking care of themselves is not self-care. It's not really just about going to have your nails done. It's about taking care of all of your parts. And Maria and I are going to discuss this very thing today. So please welcome my guest, Maria. Hi.
Hi, Andra. Thanks so much for inviting me to your channel. I'm very flattered to be here. I respect your profession and I find super attractive your books and all the work that you've done. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you. And you're quite the creative young lady yourself. So you have Logos Creative, you do all these different things. You are um, a creative management developer. I read up on you. You're out there doing a lot of things. I was interested in the yoga meditation, but we can discuss the other areas that you do too, because I think it's great that you're helping people be more creative in their marketing and really express who they are as people, because that's part of aligning yourself with what you're trying to help people with. And I do really like the yoga, the meditation, and I know what it does for me. And I didn't always do it. It was always only about a few years ago that I really incorporated it into my life. And I saw the difference it made in the way I responded with my interactions with other people, how I handled life stressors, how my stress slowly became more manageable when I was able to find my grounding and my center. So I know that it's instrumental in our well-being. You did send me something on Pesco, I think it is, because and um I'm gonna let you explain it. Explain what Pesco is, because you're very aligned with all of those parts. And I think there's maybe like 9 movements too that really help you center the body and really bring yourself to that place. So I want you to describe what you do because you're the expert at this. So
Okay, well, I'm no expert. I'm just a passionate learner, a continuous learner. So I started graphic design 20 years ago, and I was very stressed during my career, and I was not finding grounding exactly, just what you just mentioned. So I came upon yoga, and since then I've been practicing regularly because I find that it brings me to the present moment. It brings my mind to the present moment. It calms me down, basically. And it wasn't until I developed my profession. I was a manager in many companies, and I also did a master's degree in England. And I've been consulting with many entrepreneurs like you, helping them define their essence, helping them define their positioning, what they bring to the world. And with that in mind, helping them wrap it up all into a communications platform, a brand, and an identity that they can use to project themselves out into the world and stand out, because as you know, there's a lot of clutter out there. So design helps for that, helps for abstracting all those ideas into a visual image that can actually help you differentiate yourself from others. And also like brief introductions that you can have to introduce yourself on an elevator. For instance, I call them elevator pitches, because you go up and down the elevator, you meet someone really important, and you have only that time to explain what you do, what you bring into the world. So that's the kind of thing that I've been working on. And 7 years ago, I registered as a yoga instructor, and I had the luck to live in a very like beautiful place, Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, and there were a lot of retired people there. And so that's where I met your crowd. That's where I met people that were in need for gentle yoga, because I practiced Ashtanga back then, which is a very energetic and very active practice. So I slowed it down. I slowed it down, and I call the gentle vinyasa what I do. So vinyasa means to have a balance between your breath and the movement. So so there's vinyasa in my practice, but I try to keep it slow and keep it gentle. And also I tailor the classes for my students. So I was able to teach like groups, big groups, 30 people coming into a hotel, and you don't know who is going to show up, right? So instead of preparing the classes in advance, I would just try to adapt them depending on the audience and depending on how they did. So that gave me a lot of practice, a lot of grounding to be able to do classes that would adapt to the participants' needs. And then I decided to do more like one-on-one sessions, especially after the pandemic. All these studios shut down. I was teaching here in Sarasota, Florida, at a dance studio, but they shut down because of COVID. So I started to have people coming into our home and having one-on-one sessions, and that's what I love most. Also, I see that a lot of people like to do it through Zoom, so I'm open to that as well. And I have some clients that actually enjoy having classes through Zoom. And most recently, I developed specifically for one of my clients who's got dementia and she's 70 years old, so she has very little range of movements. So I adopted a chair yoga sequence for her. So I've been doing chair yoga sessions twice a week with her, and she's more mobile, more active, her spine is straighter. So when I see those advances in people, I really get really enthusiastic to just evolve my practice continuously depending on my user needs. And that's what design is about. It's all about understanding your user, and then based on understanding your user, you design an experience, you design an interaction. So yoga is just another kind of experience that I design for people. And that's how I would bring the two together, you know, the design part and the yoga.
Well, I love how that you've aligned them both to what you love to do, because you do have to be able to switch things up according to your practice. You know, like everybody that comes in, I'm a nurse too, in addition to the holistics. So everybody that comes in is different. So not everybody presents the same. So I have to be willing to adapt. So I definitely get that concept. And it's so important to be able to be flexible in your business and in your personal life as well. So I like that you're doing geriatric patients, because I feel like they're the lost part of our community. I feel like sometimes I was a geriatric nurse for a long time and I loved it. And now I do the other end of the spectrum, but I feel like they were the forgotten ones almost, you know. So and I think they need that care. And I think as they get older, it's harder for them to do certain things because they weren't necessarily as active in the former years. So now they do have difficulty with the range of motion and the flexibility. So I love that you incorporated that into your practice. Do you find that they're adaptable?
Some of them are more than others, but what I like is like as soon as they start doing at least a month of yoga with me, they start seeing the results in their life and start to get more conscious into the whole being and start asking questions. They want more from me. It's like, what else shall I do to stay fit? Because they notice that it's not just the body that they need to work out, but it's also the mind. It's also the nutrition, right? So you are an expert nutritionist as well, and you know that. So that's when I start to recommend to other practitioners, and that's where I like to team up with people like you, because there's always that whole being, that perspective of the whole being. And that's when I was a little frustrated, because I didn't have all the answers to what being whole meant. So I did a little bit of research, and that's when I came to do this research paper on called The Whole Being, and design this framework that I shared with you. Do you think it's would be okay to share my screen to show them to the
Sure,
to your
absolutely.
guests?
Yeah, you should be able to.
And I think it said that you disabled it, so I think you need to enable it.
All right, let me see. Advanced sharing options. All participants. Go ahead, darling. All participants. Multiple
Okay, thank
participants.
you.
Okay, let me just
So
get this
yeah.
out now. Oh wait, I'm trying to close it. Okay.
So I know that there's, I just knew that there were many factors involved in our health that were more than the actual, like physical health. So that's when I created this model, and obviously interviewing some experts and understanding how people feel and what are we all looking for, right? So we are all, can you see it properly? Is it
Yes,
whole?
I can
Yeah?
see it.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Excellent. So we're all looking to thrive, right? That's what we're looking for. So we're always looking to develop ourselves in different areas. So there's many factors that involve our well-being, and one area is very important, which is internal, and another one is external. So there's a lot of things outside in the world that we cannot control, or in our environment, where which are going to affect our health, definitely. So I call them the PSEC factors. So they're political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and I added cultural factors as well that allow you to feel whole. For instance, you live near New York, and you know how important it is to engage with cultural activities. For me, as an artist and designer, I always find that's very important. So, for instance, we can start there, right? So, here you see on the green, you have engagement with cultural activities. That will be a cultural factor that actually makes you feel whole. So, once in a while, you need to absorb that culture to actually become creative. And then on the other aspect, you are developing those personal traits to be able to thrive into the world. Because if you look at job descriptions nowadays, they demand creativity. It's just like a given thing that everyone is looking for. Yeah, but how can you be creative if you are in a rural area in the States where there's nothing to see, nothing to engage with, no cultural activities, and you are isolated maybe after the pandemic and you haven't had the chance to meet people as well. So those are the interactions and correlations that you can see here. Then there's also facts that are more political, right? Is there safe, affordable housing in the area where I live at, right? If not, how can I have focus? How can I have focus in my work if I'm worried about or threat about violence, things, just walking back home, things like that. And feelings safe, and you were talking about the Maslow pyramid. Obviously, that's based on Maslow, definitely. But once you feel safe, then you are going to be more appreciative. How can you be appreciative if you are scared about being threatened, especially at work as well, right? And then there's things that we all thrive for, right? Having strong, harmonious relationships. That's what we look for. And then also there's economic factors, for instance, right? So in order to feel healthy, you need to have the ability to live in a place where you have access to transportation. You have to have livable wages to be able to afford the right food to eat, right? You need to be around a network of people that actually can give you that sense of cohesion, that sense of unity. And then you'll be able to have a sense of purpose and be goal-oriented. You'll be able to be a better communicator and eventually have praise and peer recognition. But you have to go through all these things to actually be able to develop as a whole being, right? And then when we go into our field, right? So in order to be stay fit, right? That's another like given. It's like people need to stay fit, yeah, but how can they stay fit if they don't have a healthy diet? So it has to go hand in hand with what they eat for them to stay fit. Also, they have to have good quality sleep. How can they have good quality sleep if they're not in an area where they have good housing? For instance, the neighbors are making noise all the time. There's barking dogs, there's roosters. I live in that kind of environment in Mexico at some point, right? Then having access to the natural environment. For me right now in Florida, it's just beautiful to be able to have access to parks, but not many places around the States are actually fit for that. And then having spare time to be able to be in touch with nature. I find that a very important ritual for everyone, to be able to connect with nature, to be able to have to be creative, to be compassionate, to be able to interact with other people better. So that's just like a thing that is part of my ritual every morning. Right after I wake up, after having some water, I just go out and water my plants. And I stay out there and in the yard 1 hour watering my plants. And it just gives me a sense of grounding, a sense of connection. And then I can come and turn on the electronics, but not wake up and turn on the phone. Wake up and check your email. Those are bad habits that we've developed over time that are definitely leading into burnout and into the society that we're living in. So that's how I developed this framework, just to share it with practitioners so that they can assess the individual from all these different perspectives, and not just are they fit, are they not, are they fat, are they thin, you know? And so it's like, what's going on all around them for them to be able to be better? And there's obviously a lot of things going on there that need to happen for them to feel whole, for us to feel whole. And that's why I also call it a political matter.
Okay. So, I mean, this isn't much different from Maslow, and Maslow, Erickson, Freud. They all go through the stages of development, and nurses use that. We have to understand that if people don't have their basic needs met, that their development is going to be hindered in some other area of their life. So this follows what is ingrained in me. So I align with this a lot. So, but there's people that don't have access to this. So I think it's great that you're sharing it and that you created something similar so that people have access and understand that it's not just one part of them that gets them fit or gets them healthy. And if they're not outside interacting with people really goes a long way to enhance your emotional wellness, you know, to feel that connection and that grounding, not just to yourself, but to others, to feel part of, because everybody wants to feel loved and feel like they're, you know, they belong somewhere, you know. And my favorite part of that pyramid that we learned was when you look back on your life and you self-actualize. The things that people regret are those areas of development that they didn't work on, those relationships, you know, whether they had access to the food and the water and things like that. When they look back over their life and they self-actualize, they want to be able to feel like they've accomplished things, that they were productive, that they didn't say, oh, I can't do that they lived those dreams and they put themselves out there and they had positive relationships in their life. So I let a lot of things hinder me as I was growing up. You know, I think we all do. People tell us we can't do this and we can't do that. And we take that with us on our journey. And it does hinder us in lots of ways from doing what we really want to do or stepping out there. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday and we were talking about that men are expected not to cry, and little boys especially. So, and they're told as children, you know, oh, don't cry, don't cry. Not just boys, but girls too. Don't cry, don't cry. And they don't understand that it's not the feeling that they're not supposed to feel, or they're not allowed to feel. So as adults, we have to be careful with our words and choose better words, because the parent probably really wants to understand why the child's crying, and maybe should say, why are you crying? You know, and it's okay, instead of don't cry, don't cry. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of things that we're taught, you know, at a necessity, our parents may think, you know, and it does hinder us in certain areas of development. So the more we know about how important that, like the graph that you made, or if you're in healthcare and you follow Erickson or Maslow or Freud or any of those psychological professionals, you really want to look at that as a whole. And I think that's why I'm bringing it out now in the TV show, because I see a lot of people in the market that say, you know, you have to niche down to be recognized. You know, you have to choose to help someone, otherwise you help no one. So for someone like
Absolutely.
me, for someone like me, that was difficult, because I am all help. So I said,
Yeah.
well, how do I pick what I want to do when I've always done all health? So I had to pick something. I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh,
Oh, bless you.
thank you. So, um, sorry, I have the air on, because it's really hot in New York, and
Yes.
I think it's just affecting my sinus. So, I, I know that I wanted to help everybody, so I picked something that I felt could help them all without, and still niching down. That was my way of getting around it. I helped pick the one part that I knew could help them in so many ways. But um, you don't see people talking about all components. You know, there's so many stereotypes, Maria, around mental health. You know,
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about their emotional side. You know, if people are engaged in a relationship, they don't feel comfortable talking about how someone made them feel. If someone hurt them, to say, you know, you hurt me and this is why. People feel like they're exposing themselves, and you know, they've been taught not to trust, or something in their past has made them feel like exposing themselves also exposes them to more harm, more hurt, instead of the positive that it does expose them to by sharing those experiences. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think this is also reflected in working environments. So that's why initially I was presenting this framework to HR departments in companies, so that they can also use it when they are doing their well-being programs, because more and more companies are investing in wellness, but they don't really know how to approach it. So that's why they need a basis to be able to know where to start. And I encourage them to start with an audit, with actually like interviewing people and knowing what they actually need, instead of just pushing programs to them, because that doesn't work, right? It's not a suit fits all, but you actually have to go one-on-one and try to tailor these programs so that they're more personal. And also, you were talking about being able to expose your feelings, and that's something that I notice more in companies nowadays, that they are actually saying it's okay not to be okay, and actually they're giving the forums and the spaces for people to actually start expressing their frustrations before it's too late, right? Because we have all those burnout cases in the past that all the companies are trying to avoid, because it turns out to be more expensive in the end to have those issues. So you have to prevent them, instead of just have that problem that is just out of control.
I know,
Nationwide.
and the Department of Health has really been out there doing their part to have more mental health awareness. I actually work for the city, so I do applaud that, but I don't think there's enough programs. I
Yeah.
don't think there's enough. It's okay to be okay is great, but it's okay to be okay. How? Emotionally, to share your feelings, to be physically okay. Because what they're doing is they're putting a lot more of the physical programs in, but they're not really covering
The mental aspect, right?
or
Yeah.
or the nutritional. So it's
Yeah.
great that you have gyms that they can get at a
Yeah.
discount, but what are you doing in your cafeterias in the workplace? Are you incorporating better health? Some some do, but and oftentimes when you choose those healthy options, they're more expensive just because they're healthy. So making things accessible to people is part of that. Like you were talking about people having access to food. There's so many people that don't have access to quality food. So you
Yeah.
have to take that into consideration because you can't just tell someone you have to eat right and not explain to them what eating right is or know if they have access to that. So the system has some good qualities, but it's broken into many, many others. And that's why I'm trying to really bring more attention to it.
Yeah. No, and you are in a very important area of the country where there's a lot of things that could change and you could make them happen. I mean, I would love to sit with you and design a wellness program and then
I would
invite
love
other
it.
experts as well. Yeah.
I would love it. And I have a lot of groups on Facebook. One is holistics, one is for weight loss, and one is Ask the Nurse. Because when I first came out online, it was during COVID. And I wanted people to have a place where they could get those questions answered because doctors were busy and they couldn't get in to see a health professional so that I could answer their basic questions if they had a need.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, they started asking all kinds of other stuff. So, so then I said, okay, let me make a weight loss group. Okay, let's do this holistically. So it just kind of branched out. So, but I think it's important to have access to nurses. There's a lot of
Yeah.
nurses online doing that. I do a show, Kitchen Chats, with a girlfriend of mine. We've been colleagues for a really long time. We're both nurses, and we just want people to know that we're out here. So if you need that help, ask us. We'll direct you to resources that can help you if we can't give you those answers. Because we're not doctors. We're not out there diagnosing people. Even if we know the problem, it doesn't fall in our scope of practice to say, okay, you have this. But we will tell you, okay, you need to
where to go,
where to see a doctor, and this is the doctor we think you need to see. If you're struggling with food insecurity, here are some programs available to you so that they can have that complete picture. She laughs at me all the time because she saw me online and we haven't worked together in a couple of years. And she said, everything I turn on, you're there. What are you doing? I have to know. And I want to be a part of this. And I said, I would so love you to be a part of this. And I told her, I'm just trying to help people in whatever way I can. I said, don't you feel like sometimes our positions don't allow us to help in a real way? And she said, absolutely. I said, well, let's change that. I said, it starts with us. Let's help in the way we can. So now we meet and we do our part, but we acknowledge other health professionals and we bring them out to talk about their role in it. And in my groups, I talk about meditation and yoga, and I talk about mindset, because mindset is the biggest part of this. If you don't think that you can do something, you've defeated yourself before you started. So many times people overwhelm themselves with the big picture instead of starting small. I had such trouble with my breathing when I tried to do a class with breath work. I said, okay, you know what? Let's go and start worrying about meditating and getting my body calm so that I can get into that breath work and do it that way. So there's always a way. You just have to be willing to find it. And I think the best gift I've ever gotten from anybody was in a program I was in with Eben Began's wife. She does this grounding exercise and shows you how to get back in that moment and understands where in your body that negativity is coming from. She's amazing. I love her. She says, like, if it's higher than a 5, it's coming from outside of you, you know?
Yeah.
So so she teaches you how to determine where that stress is coming from in your body and how to bring it in and center yourself. It's the best gift I've ever gotten, because a lot of times we're not even holding on to our negative energy. We're holding on to that environment, negative energy, and things we don't have control over. So the only thing we can really do is take that control back by centering ourselves so we can better acclimate to our environment and our day to day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then when you notice that the energy is external, just remind yourself, I'm in my own field. I'm in my field, because you have your own field. But as we interact with other people, their energies come inside of our fields. So you do have to have that mindset and to say that you are in your own field and don't let external energies affect you. Yeah, we have to protect ourselves that way. Like, imagine a bubble. There's meditations that you can do. Imagine a bubble around you of light that actually protects you from that energy that you identify to be external, and let it go. Yeah, it's
There are
just amazing.
some days, Maria, that I need to live in that bubble all day because sometimes there's so much going on around you. And
For sure.
I'm talking a lot. I think my groups are a little confused because I've worked with a lot of different coaches over my life and my career, and not for other people, but for learning tools, so I can understand better modalities to treat the people that I work with. So I did work with Tony Robinson and Dean Graciosa in a program that they were doing.
Oh, nice.
And one of the tools they gave us was seven levels deep. And it's all about finding your why and your purpose. So a lot of people might have pertained it to what they were trying to build through this program. Yeah. But I've used that structure in my own life for goals that I was trying to attain when I felt stuck. Okay, what's really going on here? It's a great tool to identify where you're stuck and why. And it usually comes back to a portion of yourself that you're not being totally honest, like that you might be afraid. So you're sabotaging yourself and you're not putting yourself out there and you're not doing this. So it's a great tool to really invest in yourself and to readings and things like that. I find that it's helped me so much on my journey, and it's made me better. The more I invest in myself, the better I am at my job, for my family, in my career, like my vocation, with my friends, because I've taken that time to invest in myself to show up better. So
absolutely. I have a teacher that I'm gonna quote now, sorry, just to complement what you said, who says, yoga is the amount of peace you experience in your daily life. That's what yoga is for her. And I think that's what yoga is for everyone. The amount of peace that you can experience in your daily life. And it involves a lot to be able to feel peace around.
Absolutely. And it's a struggle because there's a lot going on in the world. So a lot of people, I was on a call with a friend yesterday, and she's in marketing and she does these free calls and stuff. So we were talking, and I told her I work 7 days a week, and she said, "Oh, that's not good." She said, "You have to find time. You have to find time to do something for yourself." I said, "Well, it's not a necessity." I said, "I really like what I do. This is what I do for myself." I said, "So I feel blessed that I get to do something I love every day." So, I mean, I could have off on the weekends, but I spend weekends with children that are less fortunate and that really need a medical professional so they can just be kids. And it allows me to kind of relive my childhood in a way. And
for sure.
My girls are grown. So it allows me to fulfill a need in me as well. So it's not so, it's kind of selfish. It's kind of selfish because they're filling something in me. As much you get as much as you give, for me.
It's a win-win situation. I get you.
Yeah,
that's absolutely lovely to find your something that you love and be able to make a living out of it. That's just a blessing, as you said. not many people have that chance.
Well, I'm going to share this with my audience and my group too, because I think they'll make the connection to what I'm trying to tell them, that it's not just one piece of the puzzle. Sometimes, like the weight loss group, for instance, they're worried about the physical aspects. Until they recognize where they are now and how they got there, you can't see the future. You have to know where you're starting from to get to where you actually want to be. So I only understand that because I took that journey, you know, and the more I tried to change things, that without accepting, okay, I got to put in some work here, the more I tried and failed. It wasn't until I found, okay, this is the problem, this is what I did to get here, these are the steps I want to take, how do I get there now, you know? And I think meditation's a big part of that. I think mindset's a big part of that. And I think that emotional concept, where we are feeding those emotions, things that light us up and support us. What do you think?
Absolutely. I keep thinking about quotes, and this is a very ancient one by Lao Tse, and the way of virtue. And he says, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. So yeah, it's a little bit about having faith as well. So having faith in instead of being anxious about the future, having faith that everything is going to come into place, and there's a lot of things that we cannot control.
Yes, I love that. Faith is everything. It's like gratitude. It changes everything, you know.
Everything,
you know, and sometimes faith is like, a lot of people think of faith and they think about God, that spiritual concept. And spirituality is a big part of this journey too. So I want to give God that place, because he's always first.
For sure.
But a lot of people know God when they need something, or when things go blow up, and then they're like, God, help, you know. But part of asking for that help is trusting that he's already answered you, and you're right where you need to be in this moment.
Exactly. And what the only thing that you need to do is being still, you know, like everything that we do on the mat, I tell my students, like all the movements, all the stretchings, everything is so that at the end you can sit down and be still and be able to meditate. You're not going to be able to meditate at the beginning of the class. That's very rarely. First, you have to release all that energy, and you have to come to that point, a place of stillness. And that's when the whole universe surrenders, as they say. So that's
we'll be working together in the future for sure, Maria. I love the whole vibe you give off, you know, and I do these things by myself. I've never done it professionally with someone, and I think I'd really like that experience. I think I'd really enjoy that. So there's always a reason why God puts people in our life. So we're gonna close out this show, but you will be seeing Maria on Phoenix, because she's an important part of that concept. Oh, my note taker left. Look at that. So I hope you enjoyed this concept, and I really want people out there to understand that if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not full in all the other areas of your life. So it's great to go out and have a massage and do your nails, but there's a whole other part of you that needs that work as well. And it's equally important. There's the mental, there's the emotional, there's the spiritual, and there's the physical. And when any of these parts are out of balance, you're going to feel that imbalance in your life, because all of those are part of you. And the sooner you embrace your wholeness, it's like a whole new world, you know, when you take all of those things into consideration. So this has been my special guest, Maria. Maria, I can't pronounce your last name, and I do not want to do it in injustice. So can you please introduce your name, your first name, and your last name, so people know who's talking to them today?
Yeah, Marea Saldarriaga. It's a Spanish name.
Beautiful, but I'm not great at pronunciation with certain things better. You know, as I get older, those things tend to slip away. but I'm working on that. Yes. I guess, you know, as when we're younger, we focus more on those things. So as we get older, we take certain things for granted. So I focus on that. I read every day and keep my mind focused. So All right, guys,
Awesome.
I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us. Maria is going to hang out with me for a little while, but we are going to be dropping her links where you can reach out to her if any of this aligns with something that you're thinking about doing in your future, because this is going to help so many people. All right, guys, thanks for turning in, and I am Andra Annette, and if you like what you hear here, please like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Have a great day.